Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. I hope everyone's been having a really nice week. Today is just going to be another painting session. I usually struggle with video ideas sometimes, however these past couple of weeks I've actually been feeling really inspired to paint and draw, and I've been filling up quite a few of my sketchbooks. Maybe it's the weather. We've been getting quite a lot of sunny weather up here in the northeast of England, so maybe that's kind of boosted my spirits up a little bit. If you hear any snoring, I do apologise. That is my dog in the background. He is sleeping underneath my chair as I am doing this voiceover. So if you hear any little grunts, little gurgles, little sneezes, he's an old dog, so he's very noisy and coughs and sneezes and snores really loud and pretty much constantly. So if you hear anything, that is just the dog being extremely dramatic old man. But anyway, either way, this week I've been really into painting birds. I did a kingfisher a couple of weeks back, and then I painted this sparrowhawk, which is today's video, and I painted a rook. These are all birds that I've been getting in the garden. The rook ended up turning out a little bit like more of like a fledgling, and it looked a bit more like a crow. It needed to have more of a curved beak, but we live and we learn. We have to try, don't we, basically, and getting in painting things and trying to get good at it. I get a lot of inspiration to paint birds mainly because I have a lot of birds that come into our garden. We live quite, I wouldn't say majorly in the countryside, but we live like next to a lot of farmers' fields. We have quite a few woodlandy areas around near us, and the whole part of my back garden's quite there's a lot of trees, and the feeders are always empty, so I'm always restocking that, and we have a bird bath, so we attract quite a lot of nature. I have a mated pair of wood pigeons. They live in one of the trees on the left part of my garden, and I've got two collared doves that have a nest in my other tree. There is two rooks that now come in the garden. I think they're a couple as well because they always come together now. It originally was just the one. They themselves go through like 2 coconut halves a day. Then I have loads of jackdaws, they come in, starlings, little house sparrows, goldfinches, just loads of different birds basically come in. I pretty much spend most of my money on stuff to feed the birds with. We've started trying to use lard and seeds and trying to make our own coconut halves and like syrup balls just because they go through that many. I literally top up all the feeders like every day, and we have 4 feeders out and a bird bath, and it's literally empty and all eaten by the end of each day. So we go through a lot of bird food, but it gives me a lot of inspiration to paint. And the reason for painting a sparrowhawk was the other day my sparrowhawk flew into our patio window. It had caught a starling basically while it was flying. The way it landed funny, so I went outside because it was near the shed, and I just was checking that it wasn't hurt, and it really let me get really close to it, and I got a really good look at it, and I remember just thinking it was like a really beautiful bird. It was a male sparrowhawk, so it was a bit smaller. The females are a bit bigger and more brown, where the males have a bit more of like a bluey grey head and like a slightly orange chest, but its eyes were like really bright orange, and I remember being so mesmerised by it. And it inspired me. I was like, oh, this will probably be the next bird I'll paint. So today I rediscovered my Royal Talons Van Gogh watercolour pad. It is the gummed pad, so it's got like the plastic gummed sides where there's just a little corner. I forgot how much I love these types of sketchbooks because with them being gummed, it keeps the pages really flat, and you don't get like any buckling when you're using your watercolours or gouache or any water-based mediums. So I thought I would use that for this week's paintings. And like I said, I'm really happy with this paper. It is a bit like the Cotman, and it is cold pressed, so it is a bit more textured. So I remembered from last time not to use any colouring pencils on top, just because they don't blend very easy on cold pressed paper, just with it having more texture to the paper. It kind of leaves like almost gaps in the pencil stroke, if that makes any sense. Then for watercolours, I chose my MUNGYO Watercolours, as I love these, and I haven't used them in quite a while. By a while, I probably mean like about a month, but at one point I used to use these all the time. They're one of them paints that just always stay in my art supplies. They are more of a student grade watercolour. I got them from the range, I think a couple of years back, I think about in 2022, and they were around $14.99, and there's 24 colours in this, and they're just really pigmented and vibrant. I just find they blend really easy, and they're quite like an easy watercolour to use. When I did get them, they did have, I think, 2-star light fast on each colour, so there is a light fast on them, which I was surprised by, with them being quite like a cheaper watercolour palette to buy. But I always find they're just really good when you just want to do like a simple wash, or you just want something that's easy to use and just vibrant and you know it's going to give you just some good colours. And like I said, they blend really easy, so I feel like you don't have to work too hard to get a good blend or a good effect on whatever type of watercolour painting you're doing, especially if you're wanting something simple like just doing a simple bird, or you just want a simple granulated background. These are probably like a perfect palette just as like a go-to, and obviously they're easy to travel around with as well, with them already being in a metal palette. For the background, I was going to use my Faber Castell Goldfaber Aqua Jewel markers, as I use these in a lot of paintings that I do on top of once I've done a watercolour painting, I will kind of go in with them just to add a bit more pigment. The only problem is I've never actually tried to use water with them, because they are aqua markers, so you can use water with them. I tried water on paper first and then added pen onto the water and then blended that as best as I could, and then I did the opposite on a spare bit of watercolour paper and just put the pen on the paper first and then went in with some water on one of my watercolour brushes. I found you got the most pigment when you did the pen onto the paper first and then added some water, compared to when you do water and then put the pen on. That gave like more of like a lighter wash. The only downside to that was the darker colours I noticed don't blend the easiest when you just have the pen on the paper first and then add water, whereas they blended easier when you have water then add the pen. But then the opposite, the negative to putting water on the paper first and doing the pen on top, is that it kind of bleeds out the tip of the pen, so you have to kind of keep going back and forth, and then the pen takes forever for the pigment to go back into the tip of the marker, so it just was kind of inconvenient both ways. So I ended up just going in with my MUNGYO Watercolours again and did the background. I did try for about a corner, like the left side of the painting, and covered that with the Faber Castell markers, but I ended up I'm not going to be lying, I ended up being a bit lazy and just ended up going with watercolours. It was just easy rather than doing the aqua markers, just because the light colours blended really well. I just wanted a little bit more pigment. It's definitely better using the Faber Castell Goldfaber markers more just for outlines and actual like pigment, rather than using it for the water soluble part of the pen, because I don't think they're the best in terms of water soluble markers. But in terms of just wanting details and some nice pigment on top of paintings, I do think they work really well, and I use them all the time. Same with the POSCAs. So once I used the Faber Castell markers on top to add a bit more detail, I also went in with the POSCA markers and added a bit more pigment here and there, but mainly with the yellow of the beak. I just went in with the POSCA just because they're an acrylic marker, so they're more pigmented. I also used some of the Lyra alcohol markers. They're also supposed to be water soluble, but I've never tried them out. They're a little bit like the Faber Castell. The darker shades are a bit harder to blend with water, whereas the lighter shades do blend, but they're a little light and get a bit washed out. I tend to find it's just a bit easier to use watercolour paints or gouache in general. Then for some extra highlights, mainly focused on the eyes, the beak and some of the chest feathers of the sparrowhawk, I went in with the POSCA marker, and then I also used the Sakura Jelly Roll size 10. I use the Ivory POSCA and the Sakura Jelly Roll white all the time for highlights. I've got this obsession at the moment. Whenever I do a painting, I just like to add random white streaks over the entire painting, whether that's like either if I've painted a portrait and I put it in the hair, or I've painted a bird or animal and I'm putting it on the fur or feathers. I just really like random white or ivory streaks on my artwork. I don't know what this obsession came over, but it's just my thing, and I've just started doing it on most of my paintings. Overall, I enjoyed just having a nice calm painting session. For all the techniques I used were pretty simple. I feel like it was quite effective and the painting turned out quite nice. I was quite happy with this one. I do hope you all enjoyed this little painting and chill time with me, and I hope I didn't talk all your ears off. I do look forward to hearing in the comments what other people have been inspired to paint this week. After all that, everyone, I hope everyone has a lovely rest of their week, and I hope everyone is enjoying the sunshine while we have it. So hopefully it's sunny where everyone else is, and I hope everyone has a lovely rest of their time. And I'll see you in the next video, guys. Bye!